Planet Dolan. What country aired a TV segment in which its two hosts casually eat each other? How was one local news reporter forced to read a statement about CIA creating alien clones? From the shocking to the bizarre, here are 15 of the most disturbing things ever caught on live television. I'm Danger Dolan, and today I will be your narrator.
Number 15.
The military draft instituted for the Vietnam War isn't generally considered one of the United States' happier memories, but on December 1st, 1969, CBS put the draft selections on live television. They didn't name names, but from Washington DC, they drew birthdays to determine who would be selected to fight in Vietnam. The first birthday selected was September 14th.
Number 14.
During the 1972 Olympics in Munich, a band of terrorists calling themselves Black September took 11 Israeli hostages, 5 Olympic athletes and 6 coaches. By the time the situation had been resolved, the hostages were all dead, as were more than half the terrorists and 1 police officer. Although the cameras managed to avoid anything messy or gory, they did catch glimpses of the masked terrorists on the balcony. The Munich attack marked the first time a terror attack had been broadcasted live and covered in real time.
Number 13.
Fox News has never wanted to turn down a good car chase, so in 2012, when they got a hold of one in progress, they cut to it in mid-afternoon as usual. Jordan Romero was the man behind the wheel in that chase. As the chase neared its conclusion, he decided there's only one way out. He got out of his car, ran for a bit, then put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. The Fox News cameras didn't cut back to the studio until after Romero had already slumped lifelessly to the ground.
Number 12.
The March 24th, 1962 edition of Friday Night Fights on the Disney-owned ABC network was to feature the third bout between Emil Griffith and Benny Kid Parrott, with the championship on the line. And that's exactly what they featured, the third and final fight between the boxers. In the 12th round of the fight, Parrott got his hands tangled up in the ropes, giving Griffith a free shot. That free shot was actually 26 free punches to the head by the time the ref stopped the fight. Parrott was beaten so badly he slipped into a coma and died 10 days later. That's the story of how Disney showed a man being beaten to death on live TV.
Number 11.
It's hard to imagine someone airing cannibalism on live TV on purpose, and yet one Dutch TV show featured a pair of presenters literally eating each other. Each of them had a small chunk of flesh surgically removed, prepared by a professional chef, and presented to the other as a meal. Supposedly the stunt was part of an organ donation drive, but it's hard to really see the connection.
Number 10.
On September 21st, 2005, JetBlue Flight 292 from Burbank, California to New York City had a problem. The front landing gear was twisted sideways and thus unable to land. To lighten the plane for landing, the flight did circles in a holding pattern to burn as much fuel as possible. But while the plane was burning its fuel reserves, camera crews caught wind of the impending crash landing, and it became a live TV spectacle as audiences braced for a potentially fiery conclusion. Luckily, the plane was landed expertly with only a few sparks to show for it. Less than 10 minutes passed between the plane skidding to a halt on the runway and the passengers disembarking completely unharmed.
Number 9.
Richard Belzer's talk show in 1995 was one of many to promote the first ever WrestleMania. The show featured Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. In the interest of showmanship, Belzer suggested that Hogan perform some wrestling moves on him. Hogan agreed, but probably figured a full-fledged pile driver might be too much, so he put Belzer in a fairly safe sleeper hold. Belzer must have forgotten to tap because within seconds, Hogan ended up choking him out on his own show. Belzer collapsed and flopped into the ground like a rag doll, smashing his head in the process.
Number 8.
In August of 2015, Allison Ward and Adam Ward were just interviewing the director of the local Chamber of Commerce in Monetta, Virginia. In the middle of their interview, they were gunned down by Bryce Williams, a disgruntled former employee of the same station. Both journalists died, and the gunman himself fatally shot himself after the ensuing car chase ride with police.
Number 7.
Inajiro Asanuma was a controversial politician in post-war Japan as a supporter of Mao Zedong's Communist Party in China and a critic of Japan's friendly relationship with the United States after World War II. Political tensions were high as the country was figuring out where to go after the fall of its empire. But even still, nobody expected for his tenure to end the way it did. In 1960, during a nationally televised debate, a 17-year-old extreme nationalist rushed the stage and fatally stabbed Asanuma with a foot-long samurai sword.
Number 6.
In August of 1987, a crazed conspiracy theorist named Gary Stallman charged a live news broadcast at KNBC with a real-looking toy gun. His demands were simply for the anchor to read his prepared written statement about how aliens had replaced his family with clones and CIA was covering it up. David Horowitz, the anchor, kept his cool and read the statement with a gun trained on him, even though the network had cut away before the statement was read. Afterwards, Stallman put down the weapon and was arrested without a fight. Unfortunately, his family are still clones.
Number 5.
About 17% of America watched the Space Shuttle Challenger lift off, rise into the stratosphere, and explode. About 85% had heard about it within an hour. In an era before the internet, cell phones, or social media. What was going to be a triumph of space travel, putting the first teacher in space, was instead a horrifying disaster that halted the US Space Shuttle program for 32 months.
Number 4.
Tommy Cooper was a comedian whose bits often involved being something of a bumbling magician. As a result, his acts would usually involve some sort of slapstick humor involving him botching a magic trick. So on April 15th, 1984, when he passed out on stage during a show on live TV, the audience laughed, assuming it was part of the bit. They had no idea Cooper had suffered a heart attack and was dying on stage in front of them.
Number 3.
In 1989, Romania executed its longtime communist dictator, Nicolae Ceausescu, and his wife, Elena, by firing squad. On Christmas Day, the couple were tried in a military tribunal after the citizens in the army had turned on the regime. The trial lasted less than an hour, and mere minutes later they were lined up against a wall and executed. That footage aired in Romania and then around the world to show that the complete overthrow of the regime had been completed.
Number 2.
The WXLT TV news broadcast from Sarasota, Florida on July 15, 1974 started normally enough. It was just another day reading the news. That is, until reporter Christine Chubbuck took to the air with the following statement. In keeping with Channel 40's policy of bringing you the latest in blood and guts, and in living color, you're going to see another first, attempted suicide. After reading that statement, Chubbuck shot herself dead, becoming the first person to commit suicide on a live broadcast.
Number 1.
Though there is footage of the event, former US President John F. Kennedy was not killed on live TV. However, the man charged with the murder, Lee Harvey Oswald, detracted a lot of live broadcasts when he was transported to the county jail. But during the transfer, a man named Jack Ruby barged in and fired a bullet into Oswald's chest, fatally wounding him. Oswald's murder was the first ever to be captured on live television. What? Danger Dawn, did you know that we have a countdown book featuring some of our best scripts on sale now? Links down below for the physical and ebook versions. That is it for this countdown. Have a good one!